Welcome to the T-Pac Arcade. Today's game is Super Dimension Fortress Macross for the Nintendo Famicom. In this 1985 shoot-'em-up from Namco, you battle the Zentradi alien invaders in your transforming Valkyrie fighter. Now, for a more holistic approach to this game, I did try watching a bit of Macross, the anime series it's based on. I went in hoping for a lot of mechs and lasers, but what I got was a lot of anime. So I gave up and stuck to the game, which is 100% mechs and lasers. Nice. The objective here is to destroy the Zentradi mothership core. First, you fight waves of spacecraft in space, then you enter the mothership, where you have to reach the reactor and blast 2 rows of blocks at its center before the timer runs out. This 2-part mission loops indefinitely, with longer sections and new enemies, like the standard hopper guys with double rocket launchers instead of single rocket launchers, wall turrets in the mothership alleyway, mechs that cover half the screen in heat-seeking missiles to annihilate you, then turn around and do the same thing again to annihilate you again, and special green hoppers that fire lasers, but only when they feel like it. And luckily, they usually don't feel like it. You've got lasers too, but no firepower upgrades, so what you've got is what you get. Okay, technically you do have limited use missiles that you can trigger with the select button, but they aren't very helpful because they're awkward to activate, and by the time you fire them, you probably already got hit by whatever you were trying to destroy anyway. Or at least I did. Missile shots can be replenished by the occasional upgrade item, but what you really want is the P upgrades, because those restore your health. The health bar slowly depletes over time, and whenever you take damage, of course. Laser impacts take off small chunks, but running into a missile or an enemy really bleeds you dry. The most novel aspect of Macross is your Valkyrie's multiple forms. Pressing A in one of the direction inputs transforms the ship into one of 3 configurations. The standard jet has the smallest hitbox, but it lacks auto-fire, and moves really slow while simultaneously making the screen scroll really fast, while the mech is pretty much the opposite. Big hitbox, rapid fire, and fast movement with a slow scroll. It also turns around to fire backwards when you fly in reverse, but this is actually a real pain because literally none of the enemies enter from behind you. What I call the Goldilocks form is the perfect middle ground between the 2 others, and the configuration I used almost exclusively. It's a hybrid sort of jet mech with decent auto-fire, a manageable hitbox, and balanced speed. Not too fast and not too slow, not too aggressive, and not too passive. The only problem is that, obviously I want to use the mech because it looks the coolest, but I die immediately whenever I try. Which brings me to the aesthetics of Macross. The graphics themselves aren't all that exciting, but the few animations here are pretty great. I love the brief transformations between forms, and the space background has all these tiny explosions that are really neat, but also make me feel nervous, as though I might damage my ship by flying across them. They're actually harmless, but for some reason, my brain refuses to believe that. The sound design here is a little sparse, but it has some charming music that's very evocative of the early NES chiptune style. I only wish there was a dedicated audio cue for taking damage. Sometimes, I wouldn't even notice I got hit by something until I glanced up at my life bar and realized I'm a goner. But that's not to imply I wasn't always on the brink of death in this game. I'm absolutely awful at Macross, even with the Goldilocks ship. I couldn't clear more than 2 loops on my own merit, and the only strategy that kept me alive for any substantial amount of time was nervously circling the bottom center of the screen, so that I'd be ahead of the jumping enemies' arcing rockets and below incoming jet squadrons. Still never lasted too long though. That being said, I did use save states to keep playing until there were no more new enemies introduced, which was loop 7 or 8 as far as I could tell. And considering I thought loop 2 was brutal, loop 7 was straight up malicious. My favorite part of this game is the space mine section, where you have to avoid clusters of, well, space mines. I don't know, I just like dodging fixed hazards, because it's easier than dodging bullets, and it gives me a false sense of competency. If I could change one thing here, I'd rebalance the different forms of the Valkyrie so that there's actually an incentive to use them all. Partially to give the game some more depth, but mostly because I just want to play as the mech, obviously. Overall, Super Dimension Fortress Macross feels more like a demo than a well-realized game. Not because it's simple, but because it feels sorta undercooked. That being said, it still has lasers and mechs, and that makes it worthwhile, because everything is better with lasers and mechs.